First up, I'm thrilled to welcome Jason Healey, a senior research scholar at Columbia University. Jason is presenting his research titled, Is Defense Winning? It's in reaction to the president's directives of making our cybersecurity more defensible and figuring out how we're actually going to measure that. Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, it's great. I get to be the headliner for so much great Black Hat content you're going to have at Dark Reading.
I love it. You are kicking us off today, so thank you for getting me warmed up. Please take us back. This is a subject that you have been deeply involved in for many, many years. So can you take us back to how you worked with the White House and the executive branch to help develop a cybersecurity strategy?
So it's one of the things that struck me at coming to Black Hat and DEF CON for so many years. So many of us are focused in the individual controls, or are we making our individual enterprises more secure? But I've found quotes that go back to 1970 that say we can't secure these computers and these networks.
Wow.
So it's saying, boy, for 50 years we haven't been shifting the advantage from attacker to defender.
Right.
So that's been my work, and this is my fourth Black Hat talk on this. So we had done work at Columbia University called the New York Cyber Task Force that said, what have been the innovations over the last 50 years that has done the most to shift that advantage to the defense? So the White House picked that up. That made it into the National Cybersecurity Strategy, which I helped write over at the White House. And so this talk is going to be, how do we know if it's succeeding? You know, again, not just if controls are succeeding or if an individual enterprise is better, or all the enterprises are better. Are we actually shifting that 5-decade trend so that it's the attackers that have a harder time than the defenders?
So can you just walk us through basically what the president's sort of framework is that you helped develop? What are we trying to move toward?
Correct. So the front part of the National Cybersecurity Strategy came from our work at Columbia, and it was saying, for too long we've had to worry about one person clicking a stray link.
Right.
That's going to lead to these big national security outcomes, right? And then we blame the person. When that's not right? No, we've built this system that for decades has made it difficult for defenders and for users. So one of the big shifts it looked at is, how can we turn that around? How can we make it so that the responsibility is no longer on the end user to be perfect
all the time,
and bring more of that burden onto those that have more capability to handle that burden, whether that's federal government, but also the cybersecurity companies, the large platforms, those that write the software. To put it this way, where can the White House help the smallest turn of the screw is going to lead us to the biggest outcomes on the other side.
So what are the screws that you've identified?
Right.
Yeah.
So if we, and this gets back to our earlier research from Columbia University, and we said it tends not to be technology inside the enterprise.
Okay.
Because then you have to wait 1 million enterprises to buy the product, integrate the product, train on it, keep it up to date. In the past, it's been things like Windows Update, where Microsoft does something once and everybody benefits. But it's also things like new organizations and new concepts, right? We had to invent the idea of the Chief Information Security Officer in the 90s. We had to invent the idea of ISACs, or organizations like the Cyber Threat Alliance, the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? It's an idea.
Yeah.
And yet we've gotten so much benefit. And so our work here is saying, good, can we have a framework that helps us understand these indicators if all of us are doing better?
So what are we looking at? What are your points of data that you think make the difference?
And we're not doing most of the work ourselves. We're looking at a framework. But one of my...
You're the idea.
Right. One of the purest... let me say a metric that's difficult to know what to do with. The number of 0 days.
Okay.
It goes up, it goes down. What does that tell us? If it goes down, does that mean we're succeeding?
Yeah.
Because we're writing better software? Whereas a metric I like is mean time to detect dwell time. Because that directly measures who's doing better.
Yeah, whose response is effective.
Are the adversaries doing better at hiding? Or are we defenders doing better at finding?
Okay.
So it really looks directly at that. And we've seen tremendous drops. Mean time to detect used to be hundreds of days, 200 to 400 days, and now it's like 12.
And to what do you credit that pretty precipitous drop?
Boy, that's that's great. I think we've done a lot better in having trained defenders or having a lot better security. For a while, I thought maybe it was just ransomware, which wants to get detected. But data from Google and Mandiant has shown that even if you subtract out ransomware, you still see these effects.
Do you think automation has anything to do with that?
I'm sure, absolutely.
Okay.
That has. And so our job is to say, okay, well, what are some other areas where we can come up with these logical propositions to figure out if we are in fact doing better? Not each one of us, but all of us.
Collectively. So what are those?
So we're taking threat, impact, and vulnerability.
Okay.
And so to lay out what I think is one of the best logical propositions. So if we're doing better at disrupting adversary operations, we would expect to see, yes, a drop in mean time to detect, but we'd also expect to see more rapid turnover of their tactics, techniques, and procedures, because we're disrupting them. We'd expect to see fewer easier TTPs logging in with valid credentials, and an increase in we're forcing them to actually hack.
Make them work harder.
And in fact, we are, according to Verizon Data Breach Investigation Report, we are in fact seeing that.
Great.
And we'd expect to see more 0 days and a higher price for 0 days because we're doing a better job at patching.
And that's
so
the way
0 days on its own doesn't mean much. But if you put it as part of the rest of this proposition, you can see if the trends are going in the right direction, in the same direction or not.
Okay. Is there anything else that you're worried about or that you're looking at specifically?
Yeah, I'll just say I was surprised to see that a lot of the threat indicators were going in the right direction, and that kind of surprised me, maybe even shocked me, but we're not saying it seems like the impact indicators are still going in the wrong direction.
So that means fewer attacks but more devastating attacks? What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that even if we're imposing these costs, we're not seeing, right, we're still seeing large ransomware payouts, we're still seeing a lot of disruption, we're still seeing a lot of countries and U.S. states declaring states of emergency, for example. So hopefully if we keep reducing vulnerability, reducing threat, hopefully it's just a lag time and we'll start to see that decrease in impact.
And specifically in the ransomware sector, because it does seem like almost every year we're like, okay, well this is going to be the year that the ransomware, like finally we're going to, but they just keep ratcheting up. And is that a flexibility of the adversary function, or is that just that ransomware is inherently kind of an easy way to?
We'll see. And it's interesting from a public policy, right? Because I'm on public policy. Would we as a country be happier if we saw fewer ransomware, if more companies affected by ransomware, but at higher payouts? Or, which means that maybe hospitals and school districts aren't getting hit.
Right.
Or do we want to see a larger number of smaller payments? I think we would rather see a smaller number of higher payment. Of course, we'd like to see decreases.
Yeah, 0 would be great.
Yeah, would be great. But I think we might be starting to see, but we haven't seen enough of the ransomware numbers yet.
What do you think, and again from a public policy perspective, of this trend that seems to be sort of permeating the industry, that it's not if, it's when. We just need to give over to the fact that a breach is going to happen, you are going to be attacked. What do you think about sort of that mindset shift? Is that healthy?
That is exact. I think it's realistic.
Realistic.
But to me, that gets exactly to this defense advantage, right? It was 1972 that we first said that a red team always gets through.
Right.
So to me, that's just this reflection of we know it's not if, it's when. But we can flip that, right? We should flip it around so the adversaries have the tougher time, that they're missing their kids' birthdays, that they have to work the weekends, that they've got the harder time every winter holidays, so that they know it's not if but when they get disrupted. And we can do it. We can absolutely do this. What
needs to happen to make that a reality?
More at scale, right? More things where we really get the most payout for that smallest turn of the screwdriver.
And in your estimation, in your expert opinion, where are we? Is defense winning? Are we making strides, and how far out are we from
We're making progress, right? I think we really are, and it's so easy to be pessimistic when we see what threat adversaries do.
Right.
When we see so many dark headlines, but I just love it. When you get together with this community that comes out in Las Vegas, when we hear all the folks that are going to be sitting in this chair over the next couple of days, I really am optimistic.
Tell everybody where they can catch your talk today. I want everybody to have an opportunity to get it.
So my talk is today. It's Wednesday at 4:20 p.m.
Excellent.
Great.
Jason
Thank you,
Healey,
Becky.
scholar from Columbia University, thank you for
Thank you.
joining us. It's
Great.
much
Thank you, Dr.
appreciated.